This episode is brought to you by the Colfax Avenue Business Improvement District. Looking for fun that's a little less fancy and a lot more Colfax? Even during VRT construction, your favorite street is bringing the vibes, food, fun, and unforgettable events. Show your love by visiting Colfax businesses or joining this spring for the Krabby for Colfax Seafood Boil fundraiser, the first annual Apothecary Tour, Big Wigs Bar Crawl, and the Colfax Avenue Community Cleanup. Support the places that make Denver, Denver. I mean, I love the people of Colfax. My favorite guy in a bathrobe, wig, cigar. So look, maybe I'll see him there. I'd love to see him there. That's what makes Colfax Colfax. You don't know who you're going to see. Colfax is always open, always authentic, and always worth the trip. Get all the event details and sign up at colfaxav.com. That's colfaxav.com. This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. Happy Air Quality Awareness Week! The biggest air quality issue in our mile-high summers is something called ground-level ozone. It's created from pollutants like car exhaust. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but it is the leading cause of respiratory problems like asthma. But good news, you can help. This summer, you can take steps for better air, like switching to electric lawn equipment, upgrading your car to an EV, working from home, or just choosing to walk, bike, or scooter instead of drive. Sign up for Summer Ozone text alerts to know when it matters most. Just text Better Air CO to 21000 or visit simplestepsbetterair.org. Again, just text Better Air CO to 21000 or visit simplestepsbetterair.org. Today on CityCast Denver. The National Women's Soccer League Stadium isn't a done deal yet. Council's final vote is scheduled for next Monday, so it's not too late for you to weigh in on the proposed $70 million public subsidy. Producer Paul Caroli has been talking to insiders, and he's on with me to share the scoop. Plus, a tribute to a singer-songwriter who grew up here in the Mile High City, and your ideas for a better 16th Street Mall. Today is Tuesday, May 6th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, good morning.
You know, before we get started, I just want to say I was at a show at the Bluebird over the weekend, and my friends Day Collage were one of the bands opening, and they gave CityCast Denver a shout out on the stage.
Nice.
They're fans.
Great.
So thanks, Day Collage. I'm a fan of you. I'm so glad you guys listen.
Yeah, I remember listening to their music. They came out of Rhinoceropolis, right? Isn't that sort of, were they involved in that orbit?
A little bit, yeah.
The DIY space that you were close to for a long time?
For sure, yeah. They actually, Reed, that is like the main dude in Day Collage, had his own space too called Moon Magnet.
Oh, yeah.
So they had a house originally very similar to Rhino in that like people lived there and made music there and stuff. But it got sold and torn down to build where the new uncle is.
Oh.
New-ish now, I guess, Wash Park. But I mean, they're cool. They're still going. They moved actually to Central Park and they're still going. They're one of the bands that have reformed and reunited for UMS this year.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is doing a bunch of throwback bands for their 25th anniversary. So you can go see Day Collage.
That would be cool for me. There was like a brief moment where I was trying to get into local music and like understand the scene, and Day Collage happened to put an album out in that like 15 minutes of time. So I listened to it quite a bit and I liked it. And
fun.
I was like, yeah, I could see myself doing that. Not normally my scene.
Well, they have a new album that was 6 years in the making.
There we go.
That they just released. So you could check it out in advance.
It's about to be my shit for the summer.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think so. I heard him play it at the Bluebird for the first time. It was great.
Oh, I love that.
So...
Not what we were planning on talking about today.
Not at all. Not at all.
We do need to get to the news because we have about 1,000 people to thank at the end of the show. Thank you to all the new members who joined.
Let's give everybody an update just super quick. We way surpassed our goal. So thank you so much to everyone who signed up. Every time you sign up to become a member, we get a little Slack notification. And it was just like a dopamine hit over and over and over again last week, and we really appreciate that so many of you signed up to be members.
It was a very successful drive. In fact, so successful, our next drive is going to have a much more ambitious goal.
I know. I was thinking that. I was like, we really shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. So nice, but also, a little bit scary. But we'll see. We'll see in a few months.
And we will share all of your names of those of you who've signed up in the last couple of days at the end of the episode, so stay tuned. before we get to that, we have to talk about this show we did last week.
The news.
So, council's doing a first reading tonight about that. You will hear this after that, but it's about the National Women's Soccer League stadium potentially going in at Broadway and I-25. Last week, I talked to Professor Jeff Profiter, who's an expert specifically on the economics of stadiums and their impact on cities. And this was a talker.
Yeah.
Who did you speak with after?
Coincidentally, Dr. Profiter has popped up in a few other publications since the interview on our show. Interesting that happened.
When we asked him.
I'm glad he's an expert, and I appreciate his perspective.
We did ask him, has anyone reached out to you? And he was like, nope. You should. I know a lot about it. And people did. So who else did you talk to, Paul, after
Dude's
that?
A quote machine. Yeah. So after that, I mean, I heard from a bunch of people about this episode.
Sure.
We started a conversation, a much needed conversation that I had just not been seeing at all around this $70 million expenditure proposed for the city to do at a time when our budget is going to be frozen for the next year, at a time of great economic uncertainty. We are going to be spending proposed $70 million to support the construction of this stadium and bring this team to Denver. I mean, it's a big issue, and I'm glad that this week, before the final vote on May 12th, we are finally going to be having this debate about it, because I think people have strong feelings about it.
I think so too, and I like the point you're making. Those prior to this conversation, there was just not a lot of push, or at least any voice pushing back. I wasn't seeing really
pro or anti.
I felt kind of weird about it. I was like, this is a lot of money. Don't people feel it's controversial? Like you said, budgets are in weird places. We've got lots of things I think that folks would like to see the city be able to put some money towards. And that conversation now is happening.
Yeah. I mean, you could build a lot of protected bike lanes for $70 million. I know, and a lot of people would like that.
Could put a lot of air conditioning in schools. I think a lot of people would like that.
Although we did pay for that. That is coming, I think.
But why is it taking so long?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure there's an answer.
As a person whose child will be in one of those buildings next year, I'm going to be very annoying about it. But we got some corrections sent to us by the mayor's office.
Yeah.
In particular.
Corrections, response. They called it corrections.
You're right. This is a response to our conversation.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read some of these, and then you can share the responses that you got in the sort of reconnaissance you did after this conversation?
Yeah.
So the mayor's office said owners are not asking Denver taxpayers for $70 million to support the construction of the stadium. City dollars will not go towards the construction. So
technically correct. We probably did not make that clear enough in the episode last week, but the proposal in front of City Council is not for the city to spend any money on cement or steel beams or paying people to build them into a stadium. It is $50 million to buy the land that the stadium will be built on. So I don't see how that's not supporting the stadium, just to be not to parse words. It
needs land to be built on.
It needs to be built somewhere, and if the city's buying the land, I think that's supporting the project. And then the $20 million is for other infrastructure around the stadium that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but that's like, paths,
sidewalks,
sewage hookups, sidewalks. They say that they were going to be doing that kind of thing anyway at that site. I wonder about the timeline, personally.
Yeah, I was like, were they? Because it was just chilling there for quite a while.
Yeah. The other thing the mayor's office told me is that they believe that the stadium would not be built if not for this $50 million purchase, because they think that the owners have already put up a lot of money. Like they're proposing to spend $150 to $200 million on the construction of the stadium. That's on top of the $110 million expansion fee they had to pay the league to get the rights to have the team. So like the owners are already putting up a lot of money. So the mayor's office, it sounded to me like said they needed to do this in order to make the project happen. Now, Rob Cohen and Melody Hobson, the leaders of the ownership group, I've been trying to book them for an interview for weeks and weeks and weeks to ask them directly about this kind of thing, and they have been saying no. So instead, we're getting the one-off quotes and news and bits and bytes in all the other publications, which personally not very satisfying. And hopefully we'll hear from them this week.
Not for lack of trying on our part.
No, I've been bugging them too much.
Okay, another point from the mayor's office. The city will help acquire the land under the stadium site and provide infrastructure improvements, like you were just saying, in the surrounding area for a cost no more than $70 million.
Yeah, so I think that's...
Yeah, I feel like...
That's what we've said.
I feel like Profiter was saying that's like an estimate. He said he would think that it may cost more, but...
Maybe.
We don't know.
I don't know. The next one is where we get this. That's really quite juicy.
Okay, so from the mayor's office, team ownership is committed to spending $150 to $200 million for the permanent stadium in Denver.
Okay. So this is the main selling point, I think, for city council, is that this is a privately funded stadium, right? We're spending the proposals for city taxpayers to spend $70 million to support it. Maybe they wouldn't say support it, but to help with the project. Yep. I don't know what other word to use other than support it. But team ownership, privately funding the stadium, right? That's what our understanding has been up until now. Here's what I learned on Friday. City Councilwoman Sarah Parody checked in. She had heard the episode as well. She asked me for Dr. Profiter's email, and then the three of us kind of went back and forth in the circle trying to figure this thing out. Because Parody noticed something in the proposal. There was a council meeting last Wednesday where a representative of the ownership team was there, and what they were talking about was a very obscure but quite common way of funding infrastructure projects called a TIF.
Oh, yes.
Tax increment financing. And what this means is that it's basically like putting a way to fund infrastructure. You sell bonds, you get the money now, you pay interest later. So a TIF is like, as property appreciates in value once you make the initial investment, the appreciation in value and the increase in property taxes and sales taxes from every dollar above the baseline amount, that money is earmarked for the debt service payments. So as you make the payment, the property tax goes up. There's all this extra money that you assume is going to start flowing in, and you take a chunk of that and you put it back towards the initial debt.
I feel like we talked about this off mic with Brad Siegel about Union Station's funding.
Exactly. This is how they funded Union Station. This is how they're expanding the Downtown Development Authority. It's a TIF.
And it's something that's very common,
yes,
I would say, in cities and urban planning.
So here's where it gets interesting. If you followed that. And basically, I think all you need to know is like a TIF is like a code for property taxes and sales taxes in the future. Just think about that. So last week, the city council, Sarah Parody asks a representative of the ownership group, hey, what are your plans for the TIF? Like, are you guys going to be like taking any of that money back, or is it all for debt service? Or like, where's that money going to go? And then Dan Barrett, advisor to the ownership group, says, yes, Councilmember Parody, the ownership group will be seeking to make the stadium eligible for TIF.
So
what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
That means that the owners want to take some of that sales tax and property tax revenue in the future and use it to reimburse the initial spend on the stadium construction.
Is that normally how TIFs work? Huh.
I mean, you can use that money for whatever. I mean, that's what it is. But what they want, they're saying is they're going to seek that right. Now, they can't just do that. That's not part of this initial vote from City Council. They have to get DURA's approval, the Downtown Urban Renewal Authority, but they want to do that. This is their plan. This is what Sarah Parody uncovered last week. And then only through conversation with Dr. Profiter recognized how unusual this is.
Ooh.
And how it stretches the definition of privately funded to say that they're going to basically get their tax money from the stadium construction and then just cycle it back through their private investment. That's what
I was wondering. I'm like, this is public money.
Because the city is going to be providing services to this stadium.
Sure.
Like, what happens if there's a fire and the fire department has to go out there? What about like cleanup? Anything, police, whatever, anything, everything the city does for every part of the city. That's what the taxes pay for. That's taxpayer money that should be flowing back to the city.
Off the TIF. Well,
I shouldn't say should, but they want it to go back to fund the construction of the stadium.
Aren't they going to be making money on the stadium sale, like
Presumably.
ticket sales and
Presumably.
concessions and brand deals? I don't know.
And also, for the record, Rob Cohen, he has commented on this. Denverite asked him about this. The article came out on Monday. He said, and you can read between the lines here, he said, as an ownership group, we're not planning on any TIF as a part of it, but if the overall project is successful, then we should participate in it just like everybody else, and because we're going to be the catalyst for it happening.
I want to be on a TIF too.
Again, this is something that we would love to talk to Rob Cohen and Melody Hobson about, anyone from the ownership group if they want to clarify their plans on this. But I think, in talking to Dr. Profiter and having a lot of conversations about this, I think, yes, the stadium construction is going to be privately funded initially, but if they get DURA's approval to get TIF money back, I think personally a more accurate way to describe this project is a public-private partnership.
Yeah, this to me is just like why it's not as simple as $70 million.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
couldn't
It's
agree
not
more.
just city council's not just signing off on 70 million of taxpayer money to support the stadium. There's all of this other that happens after the fact.
Yeah.
That like once you're locked in, right?
And like, think about this, like, you know, the city's going to own the land. Like I asked the mayor's office for, why is that good? Why does the city want to own the land? Why doesn't the ownership group buy the land and build their own stadium? The city's like, it's a benefit to own the land, because if they choose not to operate in 10 years, 15 years, if the team basically goes out of business, if it fails, then the city gets to choose what to do with that land. But there's going to be a giant stadium on it that's totally underutilized. What are we supposed to do with a giant empty stadium?
Well, I'm thinking this is not from the funding perspective. Is this the same? I don't want to get into that, but I'm just thinking about the First Bank Center, whatever it was called.
Sure.
It was around for a decade. And they had to tear it down because it was not making the money they thought it was going to make. And I think that's a great example of this, like,
it's blight.
Pie in the sky. Yeah, sky became its own blighted neighborhood.
Now, if you're the city, you're looking at this empty dirt field where the Gates rubber
plant. Wouldn't this be better?
Maybe this making a bet on a National Women's Soccer League team is better than this blighted, disgusting patch of dirt. And maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a good investment.
Adaptive reuse of a stadium is a tough thing to do.
What do you do? What do you do with it?
PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Being a woman is a lot. Ollie supports you and yours with expert solutions for every age and life stage. They just launched 2 new products exclusively at Walmart. Period Hero combats bloat, mood swings, and more during PMS. And Balance Perimeno to support hormonal balance, mood, and metabolism during perimenopause. Grab yours at ollie.com.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the US. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Well, okay, another point from the mayor, which is something we talked about at length with Jeff, was the $2.2 billion impact per the Department of Finance's Economic Impact Report. We know that there will be a tremendous impact to Denver and specifically the South Broadway neighborhood. So this is the city saying that will be, you will see that impact.
Yeah. So here's what I think Dr. Profiter would say. And I talked to him a little bit about this, and I saw some other quotes from him about this. He made this whole point about economic impact and substitution effects, because the economic impact report that the city produced relies on substitution effects, which means that these fans that are hypothetically going to be spending money on National Women's Soccer League jerseys or buying hot dogs at the stadium, they would otherwise just be spending that money somewhere else and on something else. So in a part that we cut out from the interview with Dr. Profiter for time, he explained that that's just moving money around. Like maybe there's a fan that comes from Jefferson County and is spending instead in Denver, and that's a benefit to Denver. But is it a benefit overall to Colorado? Does it matter where the money spends? It depends on who you are. So really the key point here is South Broadway neighborhood. This is something I think has been overlooked in the discussion thus far as well. I think this is a vote on the future of South Broadway. And given the last year when we've seen so many businesses decamp from South Broadway to South Broadway and Englewood, this is what this investment is about. It's about supporting the Denver businesses, the Denver neighborhood of South Broadway.
And I feel like this neighborhood's kind of been through it because again, this was the site of the Gates rubber plant forever. Then it was an empty building. Then it was torn down. Then there was this other perspective project that never happened where we got the bridge to nowhere. And so I can see where folks in the community, particularly right there, maybe business owners are like, hell yeah, please, we need the foot traffic. We want the business. Like you put a stadium in, you've got a bar 2 blocks away. That bar will never not be busy.
I was sitting on the patio of one of my favorite pizzerias, Joy Hill, down in this exact neighborhood. And the patio has this beautiful view of the mountains. And I was looking into the northwest and I was thinking, could I see the stadium if it was built right here? Would this become a National Women's Soccer League like pregame spot? Probably. I would do that. That sounds like a great afternoon.
Think about all the rooftop patios downtown around Coors Field. I mean, we have a good example of that.
Yeah. Now, would I otherwise be at a different pizza place in a different part of town? Probably. That's me. I like pizza. But if there's a team there in a stadium and I'm going to the game, I'll probably be at Joy Hill.
Yeah. And yeah, there's so many places down there. The city also says, as part of this investment, the city will connect businesses and homes on and around South Broadway to a central hub, boosting a sector that has suffered since the pandemic, like we we're just talking about. And for the first time, reconnecting communities, streets, bike paths, and trails that have been separated by 40 plus acres of vacant land and an inaccessible lot. Yes.
I mean, yeah, that's what the $20 million is
Sure.
for. Yeah, the city has a fund. Some of this money is coming from it. It's called the Capital Improvement Fund. It pays for this stuff regularly. It's like parks, recreation centers, roads, bridges, stormwater infrastructure. So this is the kind of thing that it would supposed to be spent on. And so like, would it be spent somewhere else if it weren't for the stadium? Probably. But they're saying it'll be built here. All I wanted to talk about here is the bike paths. Like, it's so funny to me that the way to get the mayor and the current administration to invest in bike infrastructure is to put up $200+ million to build a stadium in the middle of the city.
Instead of just being like, why don't we just put some tax money towards fixing those roads and reopening those paths? And because I live on the other side of this stadium, not directly, but Athmar Park is right there. That's a catty corner neighborhood to mine. The infrastructure from the highway has definitely changed the ability for us to connect in safer ways, especially bike lanes, pedestrian.
Yeah.
But why does it have to be this way?
Yeah, I mean,
why can't we just get those connections otherwise?
It could be. I mean, that's what the bet is about. That's what the vote is about. Is it do we want to bet big on this stadium and this team and the business plan of this particular league? That's what City Council has to decide this week.
I'm also thinking about the Dick's Sporting Goods debacle around it, right? That stadium exists. There was supposed to be development all around it.
Yeah.
Never happened.
I just have to say, before we move on from this topic, like, we've heard from some people in the inbox, in the voicemails, and I appreciate this perspective. Like, it is so unfortunate that this new realization about the economics of sports stadiums has to come at the same time that women's sports finally look like a good investment.
Oh, man.
Like, that is just unavoidably unfortunate.
It is, because for decades and decades, we've been supporting these kinds of stadiums for men's sports. And that does suck.
It doesn't feel good.
No. And I totally, I don't want to push back on something that is to the benefit of a kid like, me growing up here. That would have been, I mean, I was so excited when the Rockies came. I was a kid when that happened. I can't imagine what this would be like for young kids. This next point is kind of funny. The mayor's office says, "We assure you, we're not in it for, quote, a personalized jersey or individual political benefits," which is maybe something that
Dr. Profiter alleged that this is why these stadiums are typically approved almost 100% of the time when it's elected representatives deciding who gets the money and not the people.
And didn't we, our social media person, Abby Madigan, went and watched the mayor bartend and hand out T-shirts for this?
Yeah, check out the CityCast Denver Instagram account. Decide for yourself if the mayor is attaching his personal political ambitions to this team. Now, does he have a good reason to do that? Maybe he does. Sure. Because again, if we're betting on the business here and we're trying to get people excited about this team and showing up and spending a lot of money, then this is leadership.
Why would you not want to be the guy that signs off on that? Well,
I mean, for the economic reasons. What I'm saying is, like, he's trying to get people excited, which would lead to better business prospects. Which, if we're going to make this investment as a city, we'd have a better chance of it paying off.
Yeah.
So, like, I appreciate the hype and the good vibes approach, but like, that is what he's doing. Like, he's definitely attaching himself to the proposal.
There's so much more to talk about with this. We know, again, like Paul said, we've already heard from some of you. Thank you so much for reaching out. If you have thoughts on this stadium and Denver's role in it, let us know. Call the Will We Get a Soccer Stadium hotline, 720-500-5418. Let us know what you think. What are your thoughts? Maybe, I don't know. We've just heard so many different perspectives since we started this conversation.
Yeah, I want to know if you're a yes or a no and why.
Yeah. Again, 720-500-5418.
Hey, CityCast. Something I appreciate about the Cozy Earth Mother's Day sale is that they know motherhood looks different on everyone. So whether you're raising kids, dogs, or cane, all moms work hard and they deserve comfort. So let me tell you about these Cozy Earth sheets. They feel like cool water in a sort of, is this the Ritz-Carlton or my own bedroom kind of way. The pajamas are what I imagine celebrity moms sleep in, buttery soft. You're looking for the right gift because the women who raised you feel like home. And they are going to love Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas, and I know this because it's 3:24 p.m. and I'm still wearing mine. To celebrate moms everywhere, Cozy Earth is supporting your favorite local podcast and giving our listeners a special promo. 45% off site-wide. This is a luxury brand, and that is a mind-blowing deal. Use Cozy Denver to take advantage of 45% off at cozyearth.com.
All right, we're going to do one quick segment because an important Denverite passed away recently, Jill Sobiel.
Yeah, and this happened at the end of last week. Jill Sobiel was a singer-songwriter. She was born and raised here in Denver. She went to South High School. I didn't know her, but I knew folks that knew her, so she was kind of just always in my peripheral. But she had two big songs in the 90s, I will say, that you may know. I Kissed a Girl and Supermodel, which was on the Clueless soundtrack, which if you have not revisited lately is actually this amazing tome of great music. Supergrass, Radiohead, Jill Sobiel is amazing.
Radiohead's on the Clueless soundtrack?
Yeah, I don't know if they're on the soundtrack themselves, but their music is in the movie. I don't know if they made
Fake
it
Plastic
to
Trees.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much.
What a time. Coolio.
It's a great soundtrack. Oh, yeah. Rolling with the Homies, of course. But Jill was on that soundtrack. But sadly, she just freak accident died in a house fire last week, the day before she was supposed to come home to Denver to play a show at Swallow Hill.
Tragic.
Oh, so sad. And what was beautiful was that Swallow Hill remained open and invited folks to come and just be and talk about Jill and have a moment, which is really beautiful, but still just so sad. And I think what is so cool about Jill was I think she had maybe the first LGBTQ sort of inclusive song hit the charts because her song I Kissed a Girl is about that.
Oh, of course.
And this was a moment in the 90s where it feels like 100 years ago that we weren't even like talking about this openly, but she went on to continue to talk about that in her experience in the world as an LGBTQ person. What I found so cool though about just reading through the tributes and stuff was I didn't know how many famous people she impacted. She was kind of a songwriter. Like Cyndi Lauper wrote this beautiful tribute to her. Margaret Cho was her friend.
Wow.
So she was kind of one of those people that was lesser known maybe in the public eye, but really well known by other artists. And I don't think she gets enough credit for being from Denver. I myself even sometimes tend to forget to mention her, but she's just an incredible musician that we lost, and she had this wonderful connection to Denver.
Well, we'll have to play one of her songs to go out at the end of this episode. But I have to ask, so she had a song called I Kissed a Girl.
Yeah.
Any connection to the Katy Perry?
No, but I think they had some beef after that.
Oh, really?
Like, I think when Katy Perry, I have to revisit it, but I feel like maybe Katy Perry had made some declaration about the song, and then Jill Sobiel was like, hey, by the way, I actually already wrote a song like this in the 90s. Hers is very different from Katy's is more of like a sexy, clubby pop version story. And Jill's is like this white, literally in the video, white picket fence, two 50s looking women.
Oh.
You know, it's like, Jenny came home and told me about Fred. He's such a hairy behemoth. She said, he's dumb as a box of hammers, but he's such a handsome guy. And then she's like, hey, and then I told her about my husband. And I was like, I'm not really into him. And then the two housewives fall in love. So,
and that story perhaps happened right here in Denver.
It could have. We don't know. So go revisit that. Let's play that song as we go out. It's so beautiful.
One more thing.
Yeah, before
it's the end of the Tuesday show. We always love to hear from you on Tuesdays, our brilliant, hilarious listeners, funnier than us, smarter than us, and great ideas like the one we're about to hear today. This message comes to us from unfortunately anonymous, but it was a really great text in response to our show a couple weeks ago about ideas for the 16th Street Mall.
That was so fun. Okay, so this is a text?
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Do you want me to read it? You want to read
would
it?
you?
Okay. It's kind of a poem.
It's a lot, yeah.
'Tis a lovely May day in Denver, about Mile High Mall. Copacabana and Barcelona closed down their main boulevard on the weekend for pedestrians, farmers markets, music busking, etc. So with the buses off the mall, use those buses for free parking at Mile High Stadium and McNichols Arena /Pepsi/Ball.
Oh, yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do love the idea of shutting down 16th Street Mall, taking the buses off, because just walking up and down and biking up and down, it's so nice.
You could really get the full enjoyment of the renovation if there's no buses on it.
Another idea from this person, retail mix, need one person in charge with a team, create an NFP. I don't know what that means.
Is. I should know. It feels like an urban planning thing. I don't know.
Let's move on. Create a Carmen district. Sales tax goes back to the business for the first few years. Somehow put a system in place so the landlord doesn't squeeze the tax incentive from the business. Interesting.
Okay, to look into that.
Another one is just security.
Yeah.
Which we know the mayor is doing.
Yes.
Increased patrols.
We've seen it.
I saw it over the weekend.
I've seen them on horseback.
Yep. You saw the horses already?
Yeah, I've seen the
How'd they
horses
look?
and I've seen bicycles. Beautiful horses.
Good. Cool. Like every European capital and New York City, there's police walking the beat, usually in pairs and on horseback.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes on street legal dirt bikes. Okay. Next idea, create a Fremont Street / a few city blocks covered or an easier fix, hanging umbrellas, something like that. And have a blast.
We kind of talked about this at one point when we were talking about ways to improve downtown. Fremont Street is the old strip in Las Vegas that they've covered part of it, and you can actually zip line
up and
down it.
Oh,
Yes,
that's cool.
I watched my family do it. I didn't do it, but
maybe they should do that with the pavilions.
Oh my God.
Do like zip line
I don't
adventure
know.
course stuff.
I have so many dreams for this. I have so many unrealized dreams for the pavilions. I had no idea, but that might be a good one.
We heard from a lot of people with ideas for the pavilions. I think that's the spot that
I think so too.
I saw a movie there on Sunday. It was dead as a Sephora's gone even.
So much potential.
Yeah.
Bathrooms, parking. Anyway.
Here's one that I love. Oh yeah, and don't let anyone take the Elitch's Ferris wheel. That's not 16th Street Mall, but that's alluding to the fact that Elitch's is inevitably going to, or imminently going to shut down and
where could we relocate? I mean, I guess it could stay there, but that's definitely one of those things you sometimes, speaking of Las Vegas, they have one of those. I've been inside it.
A
It's
beautiful
amazing.
downtown Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, my idea has always been a city-run public roller coaster.
Right.
So I would say keep the Twister 3, although I doubt the Elitch's people would let us. That's kind of their main attraction.
I mean, if it's going to go anywhere else, we don't know. It might.
Yeah,
it could become
maybe.
a fixture of downtown.
Love Denver. I lived in Denver for 30 years, always within a few miles of downtown. That's their sign off. So thanks for writing in.
Thank you. This was such nice things to think about. Thank you.
All right, it's time to thank all of the new members who've joined during our spring membership drive these last couple of days.
7 million of you.
Oh my gosh. You want to go ahead? You want to start us off?
I'll start. Special thank you to our new members, Jennifer F., Lauren M., Hillary D., Christina C., Kathleen K., Luke B., Jason E., Kevin K., John A.
Thanks also to Charlotte R., Mallory H., Charles F., James W., Kim L., Zoe F., Tiffany O., Sally H., Jesse Z.
And again, more thanks to Allison D., Terrence K., Matthew H., Dylan R., Matt C., Andrew M., Megan K., Bobby L., Jennifer P.,
and Derek W., Dylan R., Eric R., Brad T., Maria N., Renee E., Dave G., Dandelion G., Lucy G., Samantha M., Tiffany F.,
and last but not least, Jess P., Janet C., Lori F., David W., Beth K., Michael H., Marianne M., Emily W., Eric H., Leah M., Connor P., and Annette M. Thank you all so much. Again, you help us blow way past our goal. We beat the other cities. I just want to say that because Denver knows how to show up. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, your mugs are in the mail, and you'll be hearing from us soon. New members, it's not too late to join if you want this email about the time and place for our first members event where we're going to pick up dog poop and get some ice cream, the Poop and Scoop.
Come
the
hang
first
out with
annual,
us.
maybe.
First annual Poop and Scoop members only. You still got time to sign up. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell Rob Cohen and Melody Hobson about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.